5.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to the program Tawheed Integration, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawheed, which is book 3 in the series, authored by Brasadi Mani. My name is Muhammad Fasih Peterson, and I have joining me online the author Brasadi Mani. Brasadi, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the airwaves once again.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Fasih. Always such a great pleasure to meet you and speak to the listeners, even if it's so icy cold.
Subhanallah, indeed. Alhamdulillah, I'm so grateful that this year we've experienced a lot of rain, Alhamdulillah. And
Alhamdulillah.
obviously, the cold weather this time of the year is expected. But one thing that we've seen is more and more, I don't know if it's the same for Belisari, but we've seen a lot more snow. Like someone posted a picture of snow on Table Mountain. And we know it rains on the, we know it snows on the mountains, but it's just so amazing to see it actually snows in Africa.
Yeah, no, it's a sign of the times. It's the global warming and all the green issues that we've not looked after. What Allah has commanded us to do, and that is to look after our environment, and that means the whole thing about recycling and all of those green issues that we've thought that's for the clever people. That's not our thing. We must actually take that as a serious thing, because now we feel the effects of it. There's storms, there's hurricanes, there's tornadoes, and all of these things. We better wake up before it's too late.
Subhanallah. But before we continue with the topic, but just brought up something very interesting. And I think it ties into exactly what the show is about, and that is obviously looking at this fight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and improving our tawheed. There are some people who have this argument about climate change where they say man cannot affect climate change. It's in the realm of God entirely. So no matter what we do on this earth, we can't necessarily impact to such a degree that we can change the weather of the world, because that is in the hands of God.
And
So
very, very, it sounds like a simple question, because the simple answer for a believer would be, how can you say man can change if Allah is in control of everything? So the simple, straightforward answer at the level of Islam is, no, Allah's in charge of everything. We can't change anything. But if we look at the concept of where man fits into the rest of creation, we are different. We have been given the ability to reason, and we have been given minds that can be utilized to understand the environment in a way that other creation cannot do. But more importantly, Allah has given us the ability of choice. It's like good and bad. We can ask the question, who created good and who created bad? And maybe later on in the program, we'll deal with the question in more detail. But if you look at that, for example, then choice is in between good and bad. But where does good and bad, where was it created? Where does it come from? Everything comes from Allah. Everything comes from Allah, that we accept. But Allah has put man on earth to make choices and then to take responsibility for the consequences of those choices. And whether we are Muslim or not Muslim, everyone is a potential Muslim. So Allah has put us here on earth where we are allowed to be extremely bad or extremely good, as long as we accept that there are consequences for every action. So we accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator and the controller and the sustainer of this entire universe and everything in it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also placed us on earth to take responsibility for the things that we do. So if you want to do bad, Allah will allow it sometimes, and other times Allah will not allow it. But the thing is, we have to take responsibility for our actions. And it's something that we need to, I think, down the line discuss more, because if we don't believe correctly, we can assign things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's actually our responsibility for the decisions that we've taken. Like if you do bad, for example, you can't say Allah is the one who created good and bad, therefore doesn't matter what I do, Allah is in control. It's a dangerous way of believing.
Indeed, Bilisali, and yeah, subhanallah, I think that these questions are very important ones to pose because they help us understand man's place in the broader scheme of things in relation to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about man's duties for him, in a sense. But coming back to tonight's program and tonight's discussion, last week we spoke about knowledge, we spoke about ilm, something which has been given to man alone. The ability to be able to increase in knowledge, the ability to be able to gain sacred knowledge. But then, if we look at knowledge in the broader context, we look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, which is divine, which is all encompassing. And last week we spoke about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, past, present, and future, because Allah is not affected by time. So, Bilisani, if we then just pause on that point for a moment and we just reflect and summarize for those who are tuning in for the first time maybe this evening around just broadly sketching that framework that we had should I say set last week in terms of the sifat of knowledge. So maybe just a short recap, inshallah, before we go further.
Yeah. Shukran, Muhammad Fasih. Even when you speak to a child, the child will tell you Allah is all-knowing. But how do we understand the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we can go beyond just making the statement, Allah is all-knowing? What does that mean? So the furthest people can go, Allah knows everything. The thing to understand is when we say Allah knows everything about everything, what does that really mean? If we go one step further, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not only know everything that exists in creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that creation is busy with or that's happening in creation, to the absolutely finest, minutest detail. Allah knows every ant, every single ant on this planet. Allah knows not just that there's an ant, but every detail about that ant. Allah knows its shape. Allah knows its construction. Allah knows what it requires to survive and how long it will live. Now already just that understanding gives us a different insight about the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the important thing to emphasize is that even the scientists have come to an understanding which is accepted by almost all the scientists in the world. They've come to this understanding through in-depth studies using the latest technology, and they've come to a conclusion that there was a point in the history of the universe where there was absolutely nothing. There was no time, there was no space, there was no objects, there was no matter, nothing, absolutely zero. Then at some point, which people refer to as the Big Bang, Allah created the universe, and time started running only from that point. So if we look at that point, that time was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Time, because it was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can't take that as something that we apply to Allah. There is no yesterday, tomorrow, and today. Now, for ordinary people who have not gone through all the scientific education and background and studies that the scientists have done, it's difficult for us to think outside of time. How do you think of there is no yesterday, tomorrow, or now? For us, it's not something that we can easily grapple with and understand. We have to accept that if Allah is the creator of time, we can't use time to apply to Allah, which therefore means anything that happens in time does not apply to Allah. So all the things that we can know or already know, Allah has known that before time started already. Difficult concept, but Allah knows everything about the entire universe from the beginning till the end, before the universe was even created. Now that is a difficult concept, Muhammad Fasih. Before I even move on, I want to just pass over to you and find out whether we need to go further or whether I need to just go on with the concept.
Well, I think, Bidasadi, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will continue and obviously then just explore the concept a little bit more. I think time is something that we definitely need to understand to be able to then get a fuller understanding of how all-encompassing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is in relation to how limited mankind's knowledge and understanding is. So yes, this is the program Tawheed and the Creation, exploring the book, The Essentials of Tawheed. Inshallah, when we come back, we will continue. Where would Bidasadi like to go from there?
I think maybe what we can do is, let me just see. When something didn't happen yet, if we use the concept of time, does Allah know that? Does Allah know that? And how does that, how do we interpret that Allah already knows, but we haven't done it yet? So what would be the purpose then of, if Allah knows everything that has already happened? I mean, the question could be then why are we here? Why, if Allah knew we were going to do bad, why didn't Allah stop us? If Allah knew we were, we could have done good, why didn't Allah prevent us from doing that? Because Allah knew what we were going to do. One could go that way. Or we leave it there for now, but maybe there is, now that would be covered under the question of predestination, and that is Allah has recorded everything that's going to happen in the universe. How should we understand that? The hadith that Allah recorded every single thing that's going to happen before it even happened. Or how do we apply the benefits of what we have learned about the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because the purpose is for us to extract from every sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better in order for us to become better people. How should we do that? Maybe that would probably be the better way to proceed.
Inshallah. I think option 3 will be the most effective, inshallah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the program Tawheed and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawheed, book 3 in the series, authored by Abdul Mani. This evening we're speaking about ilm, or knowledge, the sifat of knowledge, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knowledgeable. Allah's knowledge encompasses everything. Now, Abdul the question then would be, uh, obviously, when we look at the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has imparted to us as mankind, it's significant. I mean, look what mankind, with the good of Allah, has been able to do on this dunya, advances man has been able to make through using this intellect. But how does man then, using the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of knowledge and using his abilities, uh, give a sense of honor uh, to himself through either practicing upon or through celebrating this great gift or ni'mah that Allah has given to mankind of knowledge.
Muhammad Fasih, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not benefit one way or the other, whether we do good or whether we do bad. We can never affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's state of utter and total perfection. Nothing in the entire creation affects Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do things, then we should see how can we benefit from that to become better people ourselves. Now we are told that we must know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his sifat and his names. We must take the question and the subject of knowledge in the way that we apply it in our own life. And as you've rightly indicated, we are a special species that's been created to send spaceships to other planets. I believe they've recently sent another spaceship to the planet Mars for another expedition. If we've been given those kinds of abilities to do those kinds of things, how should we be using the knowledge? Now, knowledge, the highest form of knowledge, the absolutely highest form of knowledge that anyone can get is knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. In fact, what we are going through is an exercise of Tawheed, and Tawheed is studying the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now that true understanding is the highest possible form of knowledge that we can engage in. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us knowledge about the deen and our environment and whatever else. It's a two-edged sword that we must be very careful about. Yes, Allah gives us the knowledge on the one side so that we now know and understand certain things that we didn't understand before. But the danger that comes with that is we take that knowledge as if it belongs to us. We take ownership of it. And the moment you take ownership, indirectly you are saying you know, and you say Allah knows. So you are saying, you are almost setting yourself up as a source of knowledge, like a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's very dangerous. The second thing about that point is, when you got the knowledge and you use it to grandstand and to show off to people how much you know, then you are doing the opposite of what you are supposed to do. You are not using the knowledge in a beneficial way. You are using the knowledge to show that you are superior to others, or you make other people feel inferior or small or denigrated. Those are things that we must be very, very careful about, because from every sifat that Allah has, we should extract something that can turn us into better people and not into worse people. Muhammad Fasir.
Now, Blisali, the other thing is, as far as ilm is concerned or knowledge is concerned, the but Sadi's mentioned something very important, and that is that one should never try and compete with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any aspect. Because obviously, at the end of the day, Allah is the owner of all these attributes, and Allah has bestowed upon us and blessed us with something of knowledge, as one can say, a bit of a drop in the ocean, or a grain of sand in the desert, subhanallah. But so when we look at that, how does one use that then for the development of a human being? So, in as far as ilm or knowledge is concerned, how would be and what would be a positive way of using this knowledge to develop yourself spiritually and maybe even uh, in, in 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 your everyday life? Bilsali, I think the Bilsali's mic is muted on that side.
It's
Okay, there
unmuted
we
now.
go. Okay, Khair. So Bilsali, can we start again?
Yeah, as Muslims, we are instructed to do the best that we can do in whatever we are doing. Not only about our deen, but in everything, in your work. Even if you're a sports person, do it well. If you have a hobby, do it well. Of course, it depends on the type of hobby. It must be a hobby that is acceptable. But try and be excellent in everything that you are doing. Now, if we take knowledge and we couple it to that understanding, then yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the knowledge in whatever field we are busy with, whether it's about the deen directly or not, doesn't matter. Allah will give us knowledge and we should become the best that we can. And that's, it's an obligation. It's an obligation on us to strive for excellence in anything that we do. But the point in striving for that is that we mustn't use it only for selfish purposes. You must see how you can use it to benefit yourself and your family, but you must also see it as an obligation on you, if you do have knowledge, to impart to those around you, especially when you see there are areas where you can assist in whatever the field is, whether it is your work. Don't be like some of the people that we get. Let's use a carpenter. Uh, the example of a carpenter. He's asked to uh, hang a door. Maybe the door is a door that you have to hang in an arch, and there's a special technique that this person found out of how to hang the door that other people are struggling with. So he doesn't share the knowledge with other people because he believes that if he shares the knowledge with other people, they will know what he knows, and then his job is in danger. And you can use many other examples where people hold onto the knowledge because they're scared the other person will become a threat to him or to her. Now, we should never be scared about that, because if Allah gave you the knowledge and you are then obliged to share it with whoever else there, and you must leave the rest in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. So use the knowledge in a way that can benefit you and the people around you. Don't go and be scared, because the source of that knowledge wasn't you in the first place. You got it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah. The voice of Balisani Mani. This is the program Tawheed in the Creation. This evening, speaking about the attribute of or the sifat of knowledge. When we come back after the break, inshallah, we will continue. Stay tuned. But Sally, where should we take it from here, inshallah?
Um, in fact, I have almost exhausted what I wanted to say. So there's an obligation for us to go and seek the knowledge and to share the knowledge. Those are the two definite things. But when we do that, we should do it with the right intentions. We should be humble about it, and we see many examples. I don't want to, I was going to use the example of the shuyukh, but that would not be a good example, where the people who are blessed with knowledge, they share the knowledge in a way that is arrogant and vain, and they share the knowledge in the opposite way of how they're supposed to be doing it. Then the last point I wanted to make there was, why do we pursue knowledge? Is it to satisfy the nafs, or is it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to get close to him? That was going to be my rounding off point at the end of that. And maybe just to say, recap the points that you've made. Allah's unaffected by time. Allah knows everything, past, present, and future, which you can cap. No knowledge is hidden from Allah. Maybe you could throw in the question of, so we didn't say or do anything, but we think things. What is going on in our heart? We didn't do anything yet. Does Allah know our thoughts too? Or what's going on in our hearts, even though we haven't done anything yet? I mean, you can take it from there and see.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the program Tawheed the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawheed, book 3 in the series, authored by Badasani Mani. And this evening, we are looking at the attribute of sifat of knowledge. Now, Badasani, in the pursuit of knowledge, what should be the intention of someone who is going to increase the understanding or their knowledge around something? Because I feel that sometimes we look at this pursuit of knowledge in a way that, yes, we heap a lot of praise on people who go and pursue knowledge, whether it be in the secular field, whether it be in the Islamic field. But the purpose for acquiring that knowledge and what one is going to do with that, how important is it for one to get those aspects of one's intention right?
Muhammad Fasih, our hearts, I don't know whether I mentioned this before, our hearts, we are told, are covered by 70,000 veils of darkness and 70,000 veils of light. Now, when we pursue knowledge for the right purposes and we use it correctly, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us, then the veils of light will be removed to allow more light into your heart. But if you do the opposite and you use the knowledge, firstly, to demonstrate how much you know, then what you are in fact doing, not only are you setting yourself up indirectly as a partner to Allah and claiming things that actually belongs to Allah, you're actually feeding your nafs. And when you feed the nafs will build on that and say, no, you are clever, you know, do know more than other people, and you are doing them a favor by assisting them. The nafs get stronger. And what happens in the process? You increase the veils of darkness. And the veils of darkness prevents the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from coming into your heart. So doing things for the correct purpose is absolutely crucial, because it's a good thing, pursuit of knowledge, but it could lead to you going to the wrong side, or it could lead you to going to the right side. So our intentions of why we do things must constantly be examined. Wat is ons niya? Why are we doing this? Always ask yourself. Even let me just quote a quick example of why it's so important to check your niya at all the time, constantly. You stand at the robot, and somebody comes and they're begging for money. The car pulls up next to you, and you take out the money so that the person behind you, you do it in a way where you want them to see. You're going to give the money, and you give the money. So the person at the back can see, and the person next to you can see, and you've given the money. The second one is that you take out the money and you do it secretly. You actually even check to see whether somebody's going to see you do it, and you give the money. And as you give the money, you see somebody else noticing that you are giving the money. And inside you feel good that somebody has noticed. Somebody has noticed that you did it, and you didn't do it intentionally. That person saw by accident, but you're feeling good about it. Even that person who did it secretly and tried to do it correctly, he has work to do on his nafs, because his nafs is looking for that. So here's an opportunity to quickly claim something and to hold this person back from making progress. So examining our niyyah is not always easy. It's not always easy. The other example is you get up in the middle of the night to go on salah. Nobody knows that's your intention. Then somebody goes to the toilet or the bathroom, and they see you busy, and you inwardly feel good that somebody has noticed what you are doing. Shows there's work to do on your nafs. You must feel confident you are doing it for the right reasons, whether people see you or don't see you, and you do it purely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And knowledge must be pursued and shared in exactly the same way. Always check the intentions behind whatever you are doing, whether it is the pursuit of knowledge or anything else for that matter.
Now, but essentially, if we look at the intention, we've spoken about the intention for knowledge, but why is it important for human beings to acquire? Why is it important for human beings to increase their knowledge? I mean, there are a lot of people content with, okay, I can count, I can spell, I've achieved a certain level of education, so I'm fine. Why is it important for us as human beings to continuously work on improving our knowledge?
If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed you with a certain ability and a certain brain, like any money that you have been given, or wealth that you've been given, or time that you've been given, when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how you use your time and how you use your money and how you've used your health, we heard about that. But you are also going to be questioned about how did you use the mental capability that I gave you? Did you just leave it like that? Did you use it, and what did you use it for? Did you use it, for example, people are talking about Satanism, so it's something that you don't know, and out of pure interest, no benefit in it, you just want to understand it better and know it better. That's not beneficial knowledge. You use your mind like that. Use your mind for the things that can be of benefit to you in your work and to other people, where they can benefit from your knowledge. But the highest form of pursuit of knowledge is what I said right at the beginning. knowledge that we pursue in order to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better. And there's nothing that compares with that.
So, but certainly, in summary, as we conclude the show for this evening, just those important points around knowledge that we have learnt in this outing or this foray into the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Well, the first thing we said, Allah knows everything. Something doesn't need to happen first for Allah to know it. Why? Because Allah is the creator of time, and time never applies to Allah. Concept that's not easy, but let's keep that at the back of our mind. The other thing is, no new knowledge is ever added to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Why? Because if new knowledge could be added to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, it means that Allah wasn't all-knowing before that knowledge was added to it. Logically, you don't even need a rocket scientist to understand that. That Allah's knowledge is all-encompassing, and nothing new can happen or be created or be brought into being that Allah doesn't know about already. And then probably the important other thing is to say we shouldn't use the knowledge in a way where it is detrimental or negative. It should be used in a positive way where we can benefit ourselves, our families, and our environment. And the best possible knowledge is to pursue actively, make an effort. Don't only listen to one program or by accident hear about something. The pursuit of knowledge about getting to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that we must all take on as a compulsory thing in our lives. Don't wait till you're old. Do it now while you're young. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lift the veils and nur will stream into your heart and into your life and make a quantum difference, inshallah.
Inshallah. I mean, I think a beautiful note to leave the show on this evening. And of course, I want to say, Brisali, a big shukran for joining us as we explore the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in more detail. And this evening, looking at the aspect of knowledge. And this evening, obviously, looking at the aspect of knowledge. Well, sorry, it's just a sneeze coming through, so I just want to say that line over again.
Okay, life is the next sifat. Yes. You can just mention that.
Inshallah. This evening, obviously, looking at the aspect of knowledge. And Brisali, inshallah, next week, we will be looking at
Haya, life.
Life, inshallah. I mean, obviously, a necessity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that talks about existence as well. Yeah. And so, inshallah, we look forward to next week. I say, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah keep the Sali and family safe. Ameen.
Shukran, Muhammad Fasih. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and all the listeners out there.
Ameen, inshallah. And also, if you'd like a copy of the book, The Big Bang, The Amazing Human Body, or The Essentials of Tawheed, or any of the other books in the series, you're welcome to visit www.salimani.co.za. From myself, Muhammad Fasih Peterson, till I speak to you again, inshallah, I bid you wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, Brisali, does Brisali want a minute break, or should we jump straight into it?
No, we can jump straight into it.
Okay, inshallah.
This is not a long sifat. In fact, it's so obvious that I don't even know how to say it. But I mean, we have to. There's just a few points that I've got on this. In fact, it's just one slide. But you've already made the point. that deals, it's linked directly to existence. That almost covers everything. Inshallah, but let's go.
One of I think what we can maybe do is explain certain points. One of those points maybe that people might want to understand is when we talk about life, the life of mankind versus the life of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because obviously mankind's life has a timeline. Allah does not have a
Yes.
timeline. Also understanding that Allah's life is different from mankind in the sense where man's life can be taken. Allah's life cannot be taken. So those types of things.
What is the difference if we compare human life or animal life or any other form of life in creation to that of Allah? Can we or can't we? And what's the difference?
Yeah. And before creation was their life.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to the program Tawheed and the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawheed, book 3 in the series, authored by Bilisali Mani, who joins me on the line once again. Alhamdulillah. Bilisali, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Fasih, and all the listeners out there.
Shukran so much for joining us this evening, Bilisali, and yes, we will be looking at a sifat that I think we alluded to last week, and that was, of course, life, the sifat of life, and expanding and expounding on this very important sifat. So, Bilisali, when we explore these sifat, before we even get to the name of the sifat that we will be, before we even get to into the sifat itself, when we talk about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a whole, and we are learning about them, we're trying to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the knowledge that we can gain from them. How important is it for us to, and I think we've asked this question before, but how important is it for us to not only learn about the sifat, but try and see how we can apply aspects of the sifat that we can extract, or lessons that we can extract from the sifat in our own lives? How important is that? And would that be part of the process, apart from just learning the names, learning the attributes, and knowing about them?
Muhammad Fasih, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in several places, in different ways, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look for my signs. What are the signs? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not visible to the human eye. It doesn't matter what image, what picture you have in your mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is totally unlike anything that our minds can imagine. Our minds have not been created, or nothing in creation for that matter is able to visualize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks like. So the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we must look for his signs in creation, if you can't, as human beings, if you can't see something and you don't have any idea of what it is, you don't have an image in your mind, then it's difficult to understand that thing. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't be seen. There's no image. So the way we have to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually only through his sifat and through his beautiful names. So one of the ways of doing that is to look around us and see how the sifat is being expressed, manifested in our everyday surroundings. And when we see how great those things are around us and we examine it, the more we examine it and we see how intricate, how complicated and marvelous the creation is, then how much more greater and marvelous must the creator of that particular thing be that has been created. So looking for the signs in creation is an important first part, But the other crucial part, of course, is the exercise should lead to us becoming better people. So out of every sifat, we should try and extract something that can impact on our lives so that we can become better people, inshallah.
Inshallah, I mean. Now, but certainly tonight we're looking at the attribute or the sifat of life, which is something that we understand is essential. When we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to understand and we have to assert the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive, has been alive, and will be alive. Um, so how do we understand this life? How do we unpack the sifat? It is quite a big concept.
Yeah, it's an extremely difficult thing. It actually is linked directly to the very first sifat that we dealt with. For people who may have not been part of the program or who may have forgotten, the very first sifat is wujud, that Allah exists. And we've gone through even a scientific examples of where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about how Allah created the universe, and how Allah brought the creation into existence right at the beginning. Now, the way existence came into creation shows that there had to be a creator of that. Because if there was not a creator of that, can nothing emerge out of nothing? Only nothing can emerge out of nothing. Nothing can't create something. We've been through that example when we dealt with this sifat of al-wujud. So the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists is something that we've covered to some extent. Now, that existence of this majestic, supreme being, the creator of everything, is what we are talking about now. We can't compare that to what some other people are doing, other beliefs and other religions, where they believe in something that is lifeless, an idol or an object, and they say, that's God. Our belief is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a concept. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a living creator, which makes us already different. It's something that sounds maybe very obvious, Muhammad Fasih, when we say that Allah is alive, but that makes a big distinction between us and those people who believe that some people believe it's just a concept of nature or forces or an idol, which they can't define beyond saying that is my God. We're saying we can't see Allah, but Allah is alive.
Now, but certainly, obviously, we're saying that this is an essential characteristic that we need to think about when we think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is alive. Now, when we look at life as a whole, human beings understand life to have a beginning point and an end point in terms of the natural order of things on this earth, whether it be human beings, animals, plant matter, everything that has been created in the created realm has a beginning and an end. But when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that exists outside of time, how do we begin to understand this life when we talk about Allah, and how is the life of mankind different? How do we understand it in terms of it being different from how we understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the type of life that we have?
Yeah, our life started from nothing. We were non-existent. We have to, because there was a point where nothing existed, only Allah existed. So we were nothing. So something or someone had to bring us out of that state of nothingness or non-existence to actually become what we are today. Now, as we said earlier, nothing can't create something. So nothing required a creator to bring it into existence. And that creator was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's say, and that was the beginning, the point of life starting for us, whether it was in the form of our ruh, which then went to a material body, is another discussion. But before that, we didn't exist. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have a beginning. Why do we say that? Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a beginning, then Allah would have fallen in the same category as creation. Because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not exist yet. Allah didn't begin yet, was not in existence, and would have required a creator to bring it, or a trigger to bring it into existence. Did that creator that created Allah, we're speaking hypothetically now, did that creator have a beginning or not a beginning? If we say that also had a beginning, then that creator needed a creator, and that creator needed a creator if it has a beginning. So if we talk about the divine being or a creator, it means that beginning is not a possibility, because the very fact that it has a beginning means it requires a creator to bring it out of that state of non-existence to become what it is. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be associated or described with having a beginning. Otherwise, you have this endless loop. This creator required a creator, and that required, and they all had a beginning, and to bring it from a state of non-existence, it also required, and what they call an infinite loop, which is totally illogical. Doesn't make sense, and that is one of the proofs that the scholars of Tawheed have presented to us. And the same would apply, of course, I don't have to illustrate it, that the same would apply to end. They're both coupled to time. If there was a point at which Allah did not exist, then it would have meant that another Allah would have had to take over from that point, which is totally illogical. And both of them are related to time, and time never applies to Allah in any case.
The voice of Bilasa Limani. This is the program Tawheed in the Creation, exploring the book, The Essentials of Tawheed. This evening we're looking at the attribute of life. When we come back after this, inshallah, we will continue. Stay tuned.
Maybe the point of normal life, Muhammad Fasir, normal life, whether it's animal, plant, requires sustenance.
Yes.
And then a second point after that is it also needs rest and sleep.
Yes. So those factors that sustain normal life versus Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who does not eat, who does not sleep.
How does Allah sleep? How does Allah sleep? Does Allah sleep? And how does Allah sleep? Does Allah eat? How does Allah eat? Or sustain himself, Sure.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to the program Tawheed in the Creation, exploring the book The Essentials of Tawheed. This evening looking at the aspect of life. And Bilasadi, one of the things that I wanted to perhaps ask is, so we understand that life on this earth requires certain factors to be in place. We require air, we require, as human beings, we require to be able to eat. People need their bodies to function, to be able to transfer nutrients from one state to another, and then to get rid of the waste. And if everything works well, life is sustained. But if those factors don't work so well, it impacts on lifespan or the quality of life. So now here we're talking about human beings and plant matter, animals as well. But now, how do we understand this when we start to look at the sifat of life as it relates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's existence and life that we refer to is self-sustaining and self-existent. What that means is if you look at a parasite, for example, or the virus, I think we mentioned in one of the very early programs, the COVID-19 virus can only exist if there's a host. Only then does it become alive. It can't exist on its own. So it needs to feed off the host, and then it multiplies and it spreads and all of those things. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is self-existent. It means there's nothing else that is required for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a total and perfect, comprehensive life without relying or depending on any other external factor. No external factor ever applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only as far as this, it's a point we must remember when we come to some of the other sifat, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but nothing that is referred to as other than Allah. If it's other than Allah, it must have been created by Allah, because there's only that which Allah has created as the creator and Allah. So anything that Allah has created can never be applied to Allah. And Allah never relies or depends on anything outside that was created. So if we look at that, we would say when we talk about life of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we talk about the sifat of life, that life is entirely different from the life of the created world. We talk about plants, animals, human beings. They all need those processes that you've said, oxygen. Plants need the opposite of that. They need carbon dioxide and so on. They need energy, they need food. All of those things apply to created life, but never ever applies to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he's above reliance or dependence on anything whatsoever.
Now, but certainly, the other thing is that obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as our creator, has given us life as a way, in part, to honor us. Subhanallah, Allah has given us existence, and Allah has given us life, which is a great honor for human beings. So, how do we, as human beings, then use this sifat and extract lessons from the sifat that we can then take and employ in our everyday life? How can we extract those lessons, and what lessons can we extract when we reflect upon the sifat of life?
Muhammad Fasih, just before I get there, I think I omitted to make another point, which I think is quite important, and that is, if we compare how we understand life to be in the created world, in the material world, then we see that human beings and animals and even plants need to rest. They need to go through a period of recharging their batteries. They need to rest, they need to sleep. It's a requirement of the way life operates in the world. Now, one of the things that makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala totally different from anything that is alive in creation is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never requires sleep. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never gets tired. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's abilities, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's nur, nothing reduces. Everything remains as it was before creation even came into existence. Allah was already utterly perfect. And that perfection remains unchanged, whether there was creation or not creation, and whether time, over the period, nothing makes it necessary for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rest or to sleep or to replenish his energy to continue what he, the Almighty, is doing. So I think it's a point that makes us completely different when we talk about the life of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So, Brother Sadi, the other point then, once again, just to revisit it, is how do we honor this sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives in terms of how we celebrate this aspect, and what lessons can we draw from the sifat?
One of the first things that we must do when we reflect on this particular sifat is to recognize and acknowledge those points you made earlier. It is an enormous blessing that we have received to be given life. We must acknowledge that, and we must be thankful and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So every moment of our lives, we should be in a state of constant gratitude for that. We mustn't take our lives for granted. Then the second part of that is what we do with our life. We must understand that for every single second that we've been on this dunya, that we're going to have to account how did we use that time. Did we use it to pursue good? Did we use it to pursue bad? Did we waste it? Were we lazy? All of those things are going to be checked, and it's going to be weighed on the scale, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly. When Allah created us as individuals, Allah knows exactly to the finest detail what you are capable of doing with your life, because Allah has given you certain qualities and certain abilities. So we mustn't spend our life and say, well, I've got my life, I'm doing the things that Allah's commanded me to do. So yes, I'm a good person, I will go to Jannah. That's far from true. You do the things that you must do. You are not only qualifying to be a Muslim, but you're going to have to account for every single thing that Allah has bestowed on you. And one of the things is life. How did you use that life? And we must make sure that we appreciate it. That would be the first part. The second part is that the gratitude for what we've been given is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need. Allah doesn't benefit from our gratitude. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did benefit from our gratitude, then it means we can change Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's state of neediness. Allah's never in need of anything, ever. So whether we are grateful or not doesn't matter to Allah. So it matters to us. And when we are grateful, truly grateful, it is not only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are grateful, without taking that gratitude and doing the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would want us to do with our time and our life. So we must use our life in a positive, constructive way where we can be of benefit to as many people out there. And who are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has singled out? that we must be attending to are the people who are in need, whatever their needs are. The people who are sick, whether it is just a minor ailment or whether they are very sick. People who are homeless, people who are in crisis, people who have gone through difficulties of having lost somebody. We must use our lives to be of benefit to those people. Then we get close to what we get as close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as possible. Using our time in a constructive way. And the way to do it is simple. It's very simple. Follow the Quran and the Sunnah, because that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. I'm sending you slaves down to the dunya to go and live there, exercise your choice. If you don't know what to do, and you don't, because I'm your creator, I know what you should do. I've told you, here's the Quran, and here is somebody who has lived the Quran in the form of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the formula is easy to talk about, is obviously a lot more difficult to follow. Muhammad Fasir.
But certainly, just a final point, I think, as we wrap up this discussion this evening. So, this attribute of life, as we've understood it, we know that obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not affected by the things that we are affected by. In actual fact, nothing can affect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing can cause effect except by Allah's permission, even to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we look at this and we look at the life of mankind, and obviously in certain religions, in certain civilizations and cultures, human attributes are given to deities that people worship. So they might say that this deity had a child, subhanallah, or this deity rested, or this deity was asleep when something happened. So when we look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Allah's perfection, we are obviously saying that not only is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the creator who created everything and sustains everything, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this all-encompassing life that Allah has, that never ends and has no beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also is invulnerable and without need in this life. Aren't we saying that as well?
Muhammad Fasih, it's such a simple point that you are making, but it is one of the most profound points that if we understand it fully, we won't make mistakes in the way we believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is never ever in need in any form and from anyone or anything. We're not only talking about food and sustenance or energy or rest or sleep. Allah's also not in need of our praises. Allah's not in need of our gratitude. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above need entirely, without any gaps. Nothing can be added or subtracted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill a need or to create a need. Allah is never in need and doesn't ever need. So if we look at that, then already we're on a much better footing. So whatever we do, we shouldn't do it to say, I'm doing it for Allah, as if Allah needs it. And you mentioned a very good example previously when you said, you don't say you're going to make salah, you're going to say, ek wil vir Allah gaan hoog maak. What a horrible concept. You might mean something else, but just using those words means that Allah's greatness is at a certain level, and you are going to do something that will increase the greatness of Allah. Ek wil vir Allah hoog maak, as if Allah is al klaar hoog genoeg nie. It's things that we must scratch from our minds. Don't use those kind of words, even if you don't mean what you are saying the way I interpret the saying. So, in short, Allah is never in need. We are the ones in need. And if we recognize that, then we must do what we can as human beings to assist anyone that we come into contact who is in need out there. Then we become the true Khalifas and the representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this dunya. Inshallah.
Inshallah. I mean, but Sadi, I think that's we will leave it for the show this evening, reflecting on the life of, rather reflecting on the attribute of life, subhanallah, and the perfection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Sadi, a big shukran for joining us this evening. May Allah keep Sadi and family safe. And inshallah, till we speak again. Sadi, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Wasir. Just to let the listeners know, the next sifat that we will be dealing with is Samia, hearing, that Allah is all hearing. It's an important thing that we must understand correctly, because it's one of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where we can emulate and copy much from, that will make a difference in our lives, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to benefit from this name when we deal with it next week, inshallah.
Amin, inshallah. Shukran so much, Sali, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Muhammad Fasih, and all the listeners out there.
And from myself, Muhammad Fasih, peace until I speak to you again, inshallah. I bid you assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you'd like a copy of the book, The Big Bang, The Amazing Human Body, or The Essentials of Tawheed, or any other books in the series, you can visit www.salimani.co.za. And till next time, inshallah, please do stay safe. Khair. Okay, I'm going to end that broadcast.